What's up, Razmanites? You got the Razman here for Geeky.com and YouTube. That's right. For those of you that haven't liked the Facebook fan page yet and missed out on the announcement, Geeky.com has made it a lot easier now with our new layout to share videos as well as post articles. So everything I do from now on, unless somebody beats me to it, or it's a package opening, or it's a collection update, which aren't really videos that express any sort of an opinion of any kind or would be considered a review of any kind, will all be simultaneously posted on Geeky.com. So if that's how you're finding me, I appreciate that, and that leads me into the first question that I want to answer. I want to answer two real quick questions before we get into the meat of today's episode. The first is, since this is a wrestling video, a lot of people have asked me, Raz, if you're such a Jericho mark, why have you never reviewed Breaking the Code Behind the Walls of Chris Jericho? And the answer to that is, A, because I did a video review when I had two separate channels, and the separate channel no longer exists. I do everything all in one. So if you missed out on the video review, that's why. And B, I call it a video review because I did review Breaking the Code Behind the Walls of Chris Jericho. I did a written review right here on Geeky.com. So for anybody that's watching on YouTube and hasn't read that written review, the direct link to that will be down below in the description box. I said a lot during that written review. I didn't feel like there was a reason to repost a video review because everything I need to say has already been said about that set. And the second real quick question that I want to address is, some of you faithfully listen to my radio show, and a couple of you who do that have said to me, Raz, your audio sounds so much better on your radio show than it does on your videos. Why don't you use the same program to do your audio with in your videos? And the simple answer to that is, I would love to do that, but it's not a thing I can do and have it make sense time-wise, because my camera shoots natively in WMV format, and Adobe Audition, which I use to edit my audio, does not read native WMV formatted videos. So what that would mean, it would mean rendering the raw footage for each episode and then render the full edit episode. I'd have to render twice before I could even get a video online, and I don't have that kind of time to do that if I want to make my episodes consistent. So, now that that's out of the way, because I know that this title is going to create controversy creates cash, as one Eric Bischoff likes to say. The title and name of this episode is Wrestling. Either be a fan or don't. Today, on the Razman's Reality. is something that's been bugging me and bugging a lot of people for a while. And originally I wasn't going to make this episode because the person who I'm going to attempt to attach this video response to, hopefully he accepts it. The first person I saw make this type of episode, was Deluxeman. And then the second person I saw do another very good video on it was Gold Standard 000. And after watching those two videos, I didn't think that I had anything that I could add to a video like this until I saw one of my very best friends who, once he sees this, I want to assure him we're still tight, we're still boys, but I just feel like you made a huge mistake in your Royal Rumble review, and you became one of the negative, wrong people, in my opinion, that I'm going to talk about in this video. And before I really jump into this, that is something that I have to stress, is making videos anywhere online or doing any type of media, like I do the radio show too. It's all about having a voice and having an opinion to express. Never in life should you stop expressing an opinion on anything, or B, make the mistake I made for a short time when I stopped making wrestling videos, and that's let someone's personal opinion of you affect what it is that you're going to express opinions on. See, I don't care if you like me personally or not. I make the videos that I make, the episodes that I make, for the kind of audience that I want to reach, and also I make them because they're the kind of videos that I want to make. I'm not trying to please anyone else. So that's what making videos is all about. It's about expressing an opinion, and you shouldn't let anyone influence your opinion. But, and this is the reason for the video, if you're going to express an opinion, if you're going to put yourself out there in videos, episodes, whatever you want to call them, I've called them both over the course of this one. I prefer the term episode because I run the Razzman's Reality like a television program type format. If you're going to do that, then you have to be able to back up what you say. What you say, whether someone thinks it's right or wrong, has to make sense. Because wrestling fans nowadays never allow themselves to be satisfied. And here's what I mean. For years, wrestling fans who are internet wrestling fans who use a camera to express their opinions, for years, the most common theme among us all was that we all wanted new stars to be pushed in WWE. We were tired of the same main eventers being pushed down our throats every time. And there were two main guys who we mostly focused on because they were being so underutilized. One was CM Punk. The other was Bryan Danielson, known in WWE as Daniel Bryan. So what happens? CM Punk and Daniel Bryan are pushed as far as humanly possible to be pushed. They are carrying Raw and SmackDown. They are your WWE and World Heavyweight Champions, respectively. And yet, still, wrestling fans today are not satisfied with it. They want to point to CM Punk and say that CM Punk had all the momentum in the world coming out of his September promo of 2011, going into Money in the Bank. WWE could have really made something out of the idea of a guy holding their biggest championship and not actually being signed to the company. The whole storyline could have gone through the roof. And I absolutely 100% agree with that. But I am also a realist. And I know that when it came to SummerSlam 2011, there wasn't anyone that they could have put against John Cena other than CM Punk that would have made it be what it needed to be. There was no one else that they could have put in a WWE Championship match at SummerSlam against John Cena that wouldn't have A, made every wrestling fan hate it, and B, fell flat. The only thing that anyone cared about at the time was CM Punk, and is CM Punk ever going to return to WWE? That was the only thing that was on any of our minds at the time. So for them to put anybody else in that spot against John Cena at their second biggest pay-per-view of the year, third biggest being Survivor Series, third biggest pay-per-view of the year, second biggest being Royal Rumble, fourth biggest being Survivor Series. There wouldn't have been anybody else that they could have put in that spot that would have worked. So WWE's hand was forced. They knew they had the hottest thing going and the most unique thing going in the world in CM Punk, and they had to capitalize on it. They had to give Punk what he wanted to get him to re-sign, and yes, his contract was up, because some people still say it was all a storyline. He was never going to leave. That's not true. Look up the facts. CM Punk's contract was about to end. There was real life elements to what was happening in September and going in beyond Money in the Bank. His contract was up. So they had to do what they had to do to get him re-signed to capitalize on this momentum. So the fact of the matter is, what we get with CM Punk right now in WWE is CM Punk doing what he can do in the environment that he has. And what I mean by that is, this is the WWE. This is not Ring of Honor. This is not Shikara. This is not Dragon Gate. This is not the independent scene. This is the biggest mass market federation in the world. It is seen by more people, arguably, than the NFL, the NHL, the NBA, the MLB, the Premier Soccer / football, if you're overseas league, anything major that you can put out there. WWE arguably is bigger than all of it. So because WWE has such national exposure, there are certain things they can do and certain things they can't do. Do they do too little a lot of the time? Abso-freaking-lutely. They do too little a lot of the time. They should push the envelope way more than they do. But Vince McMahon is all afraid of offending the younger children in the audience, and no one can fault him for that, because whether or not we adults like it or not, kids are wrestling fans. Period. And you're never going to be able to do anything that's going to be able to make the product in this day and age something a kid can't watch. So CM Punk is doing what he can do in the environment that he's in. So what do we as wrestling fans need to do? We need to step back and appreciate that. Second thing, Daniel Bryan, like I said, for years, WWE wrestling fans wanted Daniel Bryan to be pushed, especially when he was fired for choking Justin Roberts with a cable. And WWE Internet Wrestling fans are directly responsible for him being rehired and him still having a job with this company. And ever since he came back, we wanted him to be pushed. Well, whether we like it or not, this again goes back to what I was saying about CM Punk. Daniel Bryan is a victim of the environment that he's in WWE. And for Daniel Bryan to be himself and just go in there and just kick some major butt and take names and do nothing but be a great bell-to-bell competitor in a WWE world, that only gets you so far. In a WWE world, you have to be able to do something that is going to grab the audience's attention beyond your bell-to-bell in-ring work. And Daniel Bryan, in terms of WWE, as a face, he wasn't working. They had to find something else for him to do in order to be able to push him to the level where we, the adult wrestling fans who followed his career, wanted him to be. So what they realized was, yeah, him as a face isn't working, which means he's got to be a heel. But we are oversaturated with the typical heel in WWE right now. So what they did with Daniel Bryan was have him do something very similar to the American Dragon character in Ring of Honor. If you don't know about the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, do yourself a favor when you're done watching this video, just so I don't look like I'm talking out of my rear end, go and educate yourself. Look up his work in Ring of Honor as the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. Is very, very similar to that character. And that is a cocky, arrogant guy who thinks he's better than anybody else and therefore doesn't realize that he's actually doing the quote-unquote wrong thing. He always thinks that he's in the right no matter what he does. And this new element of him using his status as a vegan, it's the exact same thing that CM Punk did 2 or 3 years ago when he was feuding with Jeff Hardy in WWE and he was a heel and everybody loved it. It's the exact same heat that CM Punk had when he was going around talking about being straight edge and about how he was better than everybody else in the world because he doesn't drink and he doesn't smoke. Being a vegan for Daniel Bryan is the same level of heat. It's meant to create the exact same reaction out of the audience, and guess what? It's working because you're complaining about it. Him going around saying, World Heavyweight Champion right here. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, that gets annoying after a while, but only if you let it. And you know what? If you're letting it, it means it's doing its job, plain and simple. People are complaining about Daniel Bryan's character because of the fact that it's a character. It's not just him from bell to bell in the ring. And I'm sorry, but like I said, in a WWE world, a character is something you have to be. plain and simple. Everything they're doing with him is exactly what they need to do for him to deserve to be where he needs to be. Stop complaining about it. And the last thing I want to point out is Sheamus. Sheamus wins the Royal Rumble. And all of a sudden, there's this big uproar from so-called wrestling fans who say that Chris Jericho got buried because he didn't win the Royal Rumble. And Sheamus winning the Royal Rumble makes no sense. Well, here's the thing. Here's a reality check for you. This is the Razman's reality. Reality as I see it in all things entertainment. So here's your reality check, your fact check for the day. Chris Jericho does not need the Royal Rumble to get himself over. He and CM Punk can sell themselves out of a wet paper bag just because it's Chris Jericho and CM Punk. And if they do what I want them to do, which I still think there's a big chance they could do it because of all the references to Best in the World being thrown around, if they turn it into a triple threat match between Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, and Chris Jericho, it'll be even better. And if you didn't see my opinions on that, just go back through my video log. You'll have to do it on YouTube because it won't be here on Geeky. But go back through my video log and see that I've done not one original video where I threw the idea out there, but a second video when I thought that Daniel Bryan was planting more of a seed for the match. I honestly do feel like that could happen and could make sense. But regardless if that happens, or if it's CM Punk versus Chris Jericho one-on-one, either way, those 3 or 2 guys can sell a feud, can sell a match by themselves, by just being them versus them. They don't need an extra element or an extra reason to go after each other. The only case that you could even remotely make to a reason why Chris Jericho should have won the Royal Rumble is that it was supposed to be the end of the world as you know it, and him winning the Royal Rumble would have catapulted him automatically to the main event at WrestleMania, and automatically would have known that it was going to be at least Chris Jericho versus CM Punk, and as I said, possibly Jericho versus Punk versus Bryan. It would have been automatic because Chris Jericho would have won. But you know what? That is exactly why Sheamus winning is better. Sheamus is a new star. He's a new face. He's a new guy that they need to elevate because some of these older guys are starting to be at the end of their run in the company. Yeah, he was a 2-time WWE champion before, but that was 2 or 3 years ago. He was a rookie then. He was a bland heel then. No one was ready for him to be a main eventer. No one accepted him as a main eventer. Now it's completely different. Now he's a face. He's extremely over with the crowd. Gets some of the biggest pops in all of WWE. Now is the time when you need to capitalize on Sheamus. And Sheamus is the opposite of Jericho. Sheamus winning the Royal Rumble is something he needed to help himself, not something that would have just furthered a storyline and been the easy way out. So you see, the reason that I called this video Wrestling Either Be a Fan or Not is because it doesn't matter what WWE in particular, but to some aspects, TNA and Ring of Honor does as well. Like, I'm a big fan of Ring of Honor, and I will be doing Ring of Honor pay-per-view reviews. I don't do weekly shows for any product, because I feel like there are enough people who do weekly show reviews, and me doing it, unless something major happens, like last week with Undertaker's Return, would just be redundant. But I will be doing Ring of Honor pay-per-views because I do think the mainstream wrestling fan who hasn't followed wrestling along with me needs to know about Ring of Honor and needs to start paying more of attention to Ring of Honor wrestling. Anyway, my point is that it doesn't seem to matter what any of the major companies do, but mostly WWE, which was the major focus of this video because it was the 3 best examples I can give. No matter what they do, wrestling fans always find a reason to complain about it. Wrestling fans say they want new superstars to be elevated. They want certain guys to be elevated. You get all of that, and when you get it, you're not satisfied with it. When WWE pays attention to what the internet fans want, then the internet fans just change what they want because they have nothing to complain about. It's like some people only make wrestling videos so they can have something to complain about. And if you want to do that, I can't criticize you for that because everybody has the freedom of speech, and if you want to get ratings by just being a complainer, then so be it. But to me, you shouldn't call yourself a fan because all you're doing, no matter what you see, is picking it apart. You never find positives in anything. Like I said at the start of this episode, making any kind of video is all about expressing an opinion, and you're never, ever going to please everyone. That's a given. But what isn't a given is the fact that no matter what happens, you turn around and be negative about it just because. Wrestling is what wrestling is, particularly on a WWE level. So either watch it and enjoy it, or don't. Stop complaining no matter what. That is my 2 cents. Well, a lot more than 2 cents because this episode ended up being a lot longer than I anticipated it to be. I thought I was going to be short and sweet and to the point, and it turned into way more of a ramble. But that is my opinion. Either be a fan and enjoy the product, find something good about the product that you're getting right now, or don't. Turn it off. Because I do not want to watch videos where people do nothing but complain, and I don't think any of you do either. Even if you enjoy rants on occasion, like this could be classified as a rant, for sure. Even if you enjoy that on occasion, nobody wants to see it 24/7, especially when it causes you to be contradictory. Like, that is the biggest thing to me. These people who are never satisfied as wrestling fans, they contradict themselves all the time because they say one thing, and then when they get what they want, they turn around and say, I didn't want that, I wanted this. They're contradictory, and it drives me up a freaking wall. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Remember, there's no such thing as being too big of a geek. And this is reality according to the Razman. And Razman style is not just a catchphrase, but a way of life.